Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're here for another installment of the weekly meta breakdown, and today the video's focus is on standard best of one. If you're looking for standard best of three, traditional standard, or historic, you can find those in separate videos. I usually put them out about a day apart from each other each week. Alchemy, we're probably going to put a hold on right now. Played it over the weekend, and the meta is pretty inbred right now and is pretty boring. You play Rakdos or you play a heavy anti-Rakdos, which is very slim to none. But in any case, we are looking at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. And the way we're getting this information is from Untapped GG. It's a companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client, tracks your win rates, as well as has a whole bunch of cool stats involved. You can track your collection amount so you can see what decks you can build, gives you suggestions, gives you an idea of what you're short in terms of wild cards, and then helps aggregate the data and kind of see, gives us a visual view of the trends of the meta to see what's performing best. If you are trying to push into Mythic, trying to compete for a top 1200 spot, we just played in the Mythic Invitational Qualifier this past weekend. So like that, I kind of use this tool to see what decks are best for me to kind of push there. So we are looking, and if you do want to use Untapped, it's free to get started. Most of the features are free as well. The link is in the video description down below. And then I always kind of forget this till halfway through the video, but I post all the deck lists importable into the video description, so you could just copy and paste them right into Arena if there's anything that you do want. As we jump into this, as always, if you do enjoy this content, it's greatly appreciated if you can drop a like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't done so, help support the channel. Enough of the intro, let's get into it. We are looking April 3rd to April 10th for this particular week, and we are looking at a Platinum to Mythic rank. Generally look at this rank bracket because once you go here, a win or a loss counts for the same. You don't get extra pips. If you lose, you go down. If you win, you go up. And we have 150,000 games played for the week, so nice sample size of games. So usually filter for minimum 100 matches of a deck for the week with the unique configuration. And jumping into it, we have up first, no surprise to anyone, this mono white deck might be a thing. What do you think? We've seen variations. It's always kind of the same core, but you see kind of your flex spots in the 3 change, as well as the type of removal. We've seen at times Fateful Absence be played main, sometimes no Fateful Absence. This particular version, if we look at it, it's removal package, and that's usually what I like to focus in on at times. You have the 2 portable holes, and then this version here, you've seen sometimes they've had 4 Brutal Cathars, no Skyclave Apparition. We're seeing 2 holes, 2 Cathars, 3 Apparitions in this particular build. Given that there's a large amount of kind of control-y style Meat Hook, Farewell, Doomskar decks, you also have the tax effects of both Elite Spellbinder and Reidane mixed in there. And then I like to call it the Adeline, like the win con in a can. You play this, it just could kind of snowball and run away with the game. In your 1-drops, you have Hopeful Initiate that grows and helps deals with artifacts and enchantments. And this is notably any 1/1 counters, so you can take it with anything from like Luminarch Aspirant or the Learn trigger. You also have Usher the Fallen as a 1-drop. We're seeing 4 of Intrepid Adversaries. We've seen these numbers of Intrepid Adversaries vary in terms of the number of Wandering Emperors the deck has played. This version's on none, so we see this number increase. Because this is it's a 2-drop, but oftentimes you're playing it as a 4-drop. We've also seen some copies of Sungold Sentinel, which helps in the mirror to kind of push through damage. We have your Thalias and the one of Legion Angel. One notable thing with this deck, if you are importing it, what you should do is change the basic lands away from snow-covered plains to just regular plains. Now, there's no Faceless Haven in the format, so there's no reason to play the snow-covered plains, and you're actually just lowering small percentage points, but if you're playing the mirror and they have Reidane out, the snow lands come into play tapped, so you're just giving yourself an unfair kind of disadvantage by doing this. We've also seen some of these versions also play the colorless creature land. It's skipping my mind right now. Crawling Barrens. We've seen some copies of that, just increase the density of creature lands. Your sideboard, and this is just from the Legion Angel. So 66% win rate over 130 games, 5-minute duration. Up next, we see Azorius Control, 64% win rate, about 2.5 times the amount of time. And this deck is really a kill everything deck. I usually like to look at Control in kind of buckets. How are they winning the game? How are they getting to their win points? And what do you need to kind of play around. Are they play on the stack type deck? Are they play to the board type deck? That helps you to kind of understand. So you're primarily winning through the Wandering Emperor, just taking over games. You have a copy of Hullbreaker Horror, as well as 2 Emeria's Calls, and then we have a couple copies of Hall the Storm Giant. Technically, you do also have the Restoration of Eiganjo, which can flip and provide you some value there. And then this version here is a little bit heavier on counter spells than we typically see in some of these lists. You have your 2 of Negates, 4 of Jwaris, a Disdainful Stroke, and a Saw coming. They're a little bit lighter on creature direct removal. So creature lands could kind of run away with it in a sense, but you kind of have to treat the Wandering Emperor as direct removal as well in some instances because it is a flash threat. So you're seeing only 1 March, a couple Fateful Absence. Revitalize kind of hedges your life in a way, so it can kind of buffer you. And then we see the 4 of Doomskar, 3 of Farewell. So they're really banking on these sweepers to catch up. We're also seeing 1 Behold, 4 Memory Deluge, which is pretty daunting in terms of removal. Like we see these lists now in mono white, like you have Reidane, Spellbinder, and Thalia. So this can really, like these draw spells can only come down maybe turn 5, turn 6. You're really hoping on that Doomskar to pull some weight in that regard. You have some utility lands mixed in there. Also in the mono white deck, just play like 1 or 2 copies of these. It's pretty much free. At least play 1. It comes up from time to time where this removal is really helpful. And worst case, it's just an untapped white source. Just play this in your mono color decks. So yeah, mono for Azorius Control. Then we have Naya Humans. So as I was mentioning, like I only have 2 Helana and Elena's. I need 4 for this deck, and then I can highlight with untapped, and it shows me that I need 10. I have 10 rare wild cards. I need 2 more to build this deck, so I have the cards that could do it. And this version here is really a kind of mono white splash Naya red and green. And the reason you're splashing those colors in this particular instance is for Helana and Elena. Sometimes you also see Sigarda on these lists. More recently, they've been moving away from Sigarda as for the Legion Angel. You also get Snakeskin Veil as a protection spell. And you're seeing a lot of the similar types of effects. You have your Intrepid Adversary, Luminarch Aspirant, Thalia. Notably, this particular version is on Chaplain of Alms. If you look at the Usher the Fallen, it is not a human. So with Sigarda, they were more all in on the humans. So you could probably play the Usher, but the Ward is relevant here as well as the First Strike to make a bunch of counters on things. But very similar decks. This one usually can hit a little bit harder, especially with the haste. But you are taxing your mana base a little bit more, and it's not as taxing on the opponent. So you're a little bit more susceptible to a board wipe in this particular version. That was a 63.5% at a 310 game sample size. Up next we have Rakdos Sacrifice, 62%, 6.9, nice. And this is an Anvil deck, only called to Anvil, where you're looking to, I like to call these decks the nickel and dime decks. You know, a life point here, gain a life, drain a life, and you kind of play the game out in that manner. So the Anvil wants you to play an artifact kind of sub-theme, and the way a lot of these decks kind of build that out is through leveraging the vampires that create blood tokens. You have Voldaren Epicure that, you know, deals a damage, gives you a blood, gives you a body, all for 1 mana. Really good value. You have Blood Tithe Harvester, an aggressive threat, you know, 2 mana, 3 power creature that makes you blood, that can in a pinch also serve as removal. So you pair that up. You have some Meat Hooks main, you have a Smelter that can make some artifacts. This version here is also on Fable the Mirror Breaker to get some more value, potentially copying your creatures, some Sorens on the top end, and then you have card advantage in the form of Synthesizer, Deadly Dispute, you have some removal in the form of Infernal Grasp and Voltage Surge mixed in there, along with, like I mentioned, the Massacre, Shatter Skull, and then you just got a cheeky one of Duress mixed into that. So if you like an Aristocrat style deck, a Cat Oven style Sacrifice deck, this was one you might want to check out. We are in the Auras portion of the meta, 62%, 240. So you kind of have Auras into 2 buckets, and I'm actually just going to move these in, kind of compare them back to back. So this is a non-ruins kind of mid-rangey, removal heavier version in a way. So you still have kind of the common themes. You have Generous Visitor, which puts counters on items, on creatures whenever you cast enchantments. Your Jukai, which gives you a reduction in cost, and your Kami, which grows. But this particular version here is playing more of a mid-range. So you're not as turbo out with the runes, with Runeforge Champion, stuff like that. You have Spirited Companion, which just kind of cycles itself, draws you a card. You have Weaver of Harmony that could double activated or ETB. Or triggered effects. Then you have like Mashiko that could become a really big creature and pump the team. Or creatures, you got a Ranger's Class, a Runamite for Trample mixed in there. You have removal in the form of like Circle Confinement, Borrowed Time, and Touch of the Spirit Realm. Notably with Touch, you can always play this defensively or offensively with the Channel ability. I use it sometimes just to protect my creatures in the Runes version. You got Borrowed Time, like I mentioned. Sparring Regiment is interesting. It also gives you access to a Learn board, but just can kind of buff up your squad. It also gives you Pseudo-Vigilance in a way. And then a 1-of Wedding Announcement. Notably, this version, they've kind of moved away from Hallowed Haunting, so I'd say it's a little bit more aggressively slanted than kind of the Hallowed Haunting, go big, make an army style. Interesting with the mana base, I think this is just for budget considerations, but this mana base is not ideal. You shouldn't have 4 pathways. These shouldn't be played. You should be playing the slow lands, like the 3, comes into play untapped on 3. This line's not very good. So this mana base probably needs a rework. You probably also want some more creature lands in this deck. But kind of seeing with that. They're putting up results, so I can't really fault them for that. But I think with this particular mana base, it's just a lot left to be considered. We have up next Naya Runes. This is it's kind of my favorite deck of at least Alchemy. This version's a little bit interesting and deviates from my version that I typically play. So you still have your package. So if you're not sure, Jukai Naturalist and Runeforge Champion. How that interaction works is Runeforge provides an alternate casting cost for your runes. Instead of playing 1 in a white, now you just play 1 colorless for it. Jukai Naturalist makes it so your enchantments cost 1 less. So basically all your runes cost 0 mana. So you just kind of chain them together, get a bunch of value, storm off. So you play that, kind of go to town, go crazy, go wild. And what you're trying to do is with stuff like Kami of Transience, or Generous Visitor, or Chapters 2 and 3 of Showdown of the Skalds, put a bunch of counters, kind of combo kill your opponent out of nowhere. This version here is playing Mashiko, Reign of Truth, as well as Restoration of Eiganjo, to kind of play a little bit more mid-rangey of a shell. I just played at the MIQ, which was Alchemy. I can show you my list there. It's pretty much all standard legal minus the 2 or 3 of the Crossroads. I went 3 and 3 at the MIQ. But my version, still have the communes, a couple circle confinements, but I'm on the Hallowed Hauntings main as well. I like this version a little bit better. Even going back, I've played this in Alchemy a lot. Let me just pull up that. So I have a 71% win rate in Best of 1 in Alchemy, and like I said, it's pretty much the same list. I made a couple configurations for Best of 3 version. I still like this more for the Best of 1 version. I'm just kind of going all in. I kind of seen from that, but this list has treated me fairly well overall. And it's just, some Touch Spirit Realm, some Hallowed Hauntings. This version's got no real removal main. And I just, other than this Touch Spirit Realms, I just like killing them and killing them fast. But we see this version a little bit more mid-range focus. Mana base wise, they're on 23 lands, which is fine. I do like sprinkling a creature land into there. They also should probably be playing some of the green-white duels. You're largely going to want green on 1 at times, or green-white. I find with this deck, your heavy requirement is green-white, and your splash color is the red. So I played a lot of this deck. That's why I'm very kind of passionate, or have opinions. I'm over 100, like this last 2 seasons, I'm over 100 games with it, plus the MIQ, plus just whatever I played on my phone that didn't get tracked, kind of all into there. Up next, we have Golgari Control. And this is a Invoke Despair, 61-ish%. You have your treasure package to kind of ramp you up ahead. You got a bunch of removal, Empowered Kill, Meat Hook Massacre, Soul Transfer, Binding. So it's kind of got a ramp sub-theme. You're playing into Invoke Despair, and what you're trying to do is with a Shigeki kind of channel, in return Invoke Despairs back to your hand and get some value that way, and just try to invoke your opponent to death. And pretty much just like the mono black kind of decks that we've seen, the Blood on the Snow type decks, they've just opted to go with Invoke Despair as kind of the finisher, and then using the green splash for some value. You got Bela Ged to kind of get stuff back, and then just, you know, some 4-drops that have utility, and also, you know, technically Culling, you can, depending on the board state, you can go a Culling Ritual into Invoke Despair in the same turn, or even on turn 4, potentially ramp and play both, which is a pretty big value with the deck. Then we have Orzhov Control, another Invoke Despair style deck. So we see a lot of commonality. You know, you have your Dork package into Dispute. This version is also playing Dockside Chef and Rite of Oblivion with some Wedding Announcements mixed in. So this is more akin to the Orzhov decks that we've seen, playing kind of the grind value train. Like this one's 9.5 minutes. This one's like 9. So about the same time. They're looking to take the game long, but they do have some options to kind of value grind out your opponent. We have Mono Blue Delver, Mono Blue Tempo. Again, like I'm missing in this particular deck 4 rares that are craftable for me because I have the wild cards. But this is kind of a tempo style strategy. You're looking to play a 1-drop in like Ascendant Spirit or Delver and kind of protecting your squad. So you have counter spells, you have phase out spells. You can power this up. Lots of kind of tricky, try to get under your opponent and kill him like that. I say this every week that we've seen this deck. Just play 1 Hall of the Storm Giants. It's free. You're going to have some games you're going to go long. Just have it in your deck. It costs you nothing. But this deck's had about a 60% win rate a couple weeks now in a row. Benefits heavily being on the play. You know, if you can go turn 1 and then just, you know, attack them for 1 to 3 damage every turn while interacting with their board, it's pretty solid value in that respect. This is called Rakdos Dragons, but it's really a Rakdos mid-range deck. This is one that Crokies was playing, I believe. And it's another Invoke Despair deck. He was trying to port it off of his Alchemy-style deck, but it's looking to use like Fable the Mirror Breaker with stuff like Blood Tithe Harvester, a bunch of removal kind of mixed in, just trying to grind your opponent out of value and win kind of a long game. So while the Anvil decks are more of a Aristocrat style, this is kind of more mid-rangey control. They both look to grind, but I say the manner in which they grind is a little bit different. This is trying to go over the top. The other one's trying to, you know, sacrifice creatures for value and, like I said, nickel and dime your opponent. We have Is It Control? Is it Dragons? Is it a pain in the ass? Yes, it is. We have 55% win rate. And this is really just your quintessential Goldspan Dragon Lair, Hullbreaker Horror deck. Just looking to stall out the game until you get one of those top-end threats. You have stuff like Spikefield, Flame Blast, just a ton of removal really, like Fading Hopes, Cinderclasms, Dragonfires, Burn Down the House, all mixed in there. Some counter spells, as well as Jwari and Unexpected for card advantage, scattered into the mix as well. Just one of those decks that's always annoying to play against. They always seem to just draw the perfect answer. And lastly, Mono Red Andes. I love me a basic mountain, but this one's kind of got an artifact sub-theme. You have Patchwork Automaton, Ogrehead Helm to kind of redraw your cards. Reinforced Ronin plays really nicely with the Patchwork. Kumano also modifies the team, gives you another kind of angle of attack. You have Thundering Raiju that also kind of attacks on a different angle. You put counters, but also just deals direct damage thanks to modified creatures. Seismic Wave is a kind of a way to combat the mirrors. At the very worst, it's just a really bad burn spell against control. So it still has some utility, kind of playing into that. You got Kami's Flare for removal and damage, and then Bloodthirsty can flashback some of the goods. And we see, similar to some of those mono white decks I was telling you about, they're opting for 6 creature lands in that particular list. Don't know if you can hear, but my dog's yipping in her sleep. She's decided to set up shop beside me to sleep and is completely knocked out of it. And kind of going back, like I usually try to like say these are the decks I've been playing. Frankly, I've been playing a lot of Alchemy or Historic this last little bit. Alchemy for the qualifier, but kind of been trying out decks in Historic. Mono red still seems really good. I'm trying out kind of a Rakdos version that we've seen in Alchemy for Historic, just trying out some brews. So nothing really in Standard this week as I quickly look. This deck's been pretty sweet, so if you want to have a fun-ish kind of combo-y deck, this is a Izzet Body of Research, Invoke Calamity, Fling deck. 6-1, I was playing it like around Mythic rank towards the end of the season, I think. Or no, was I? When was I playing this? No, I guess I was playing this at the beginning of the season. But this one's fun. I have a full video up on it on my YouTube channel. If you want to see it in action, it plays really... It's got elements of the Izzet deck, but you just kind of combo kill your opponent with like a 45-45 elemental that either just attacks or kills them on the shot. So anyways, that's it for the week. Let me know what deck you're playing in the comments, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.